Food versus No Food, Improving a Feral Puppy's Comfort with Human Touch. The goal is to improve Junebug's comfort with human touch without food being present after behavior modification. This is a video using Junebug, a previously feral puppy that's currently undergoing rehab at a local shelter. The shelter Junebug is being transferred to requires that puppies and dogs be comfortable with human touch before they take them. So we are working on this with Junebug today. Before this, she was quite bitey and afraid of touch, but the shelter staff has been doing a great job rehabbing her and teaching her to walk on a leash. So I'm going to use Junebug in this little experiment to see if food did a better job of teaching Junebug to accept touch or not. So the results may be surprising because most people would use food as a way to convince the dog that being touched is okay and to reward them. But you'll see here that it definitely has its limitations with Junebug, and I've found this to be true with other dogs. I'm not saying not to use food for this purpose. I have in the past. I don't base my entire relationship on the use of food with these dogs. First, I build trust, and then I'll work on particular fears, using food to build a better association with the scary thing. So I hope you enjoy this comparison. I found it quite interesting. So here's Junebug at the shelter, and you can see she'll readily come up to me to take a treat from my hand. She's probably about 4 months old here. And you can see if I go to touch her, she really doesn't want to be touched. This is why I say that using food can build a sense of false confidence that people have in their relationship with the dog. So many people think that because a dog will take food from your hand, it means the dog trusts you, which is obviously not the case here. Also, she gets quite bold for a treat and jumps up on me. And this could turn into pushy behavior if it's not handled the correct way and only rewarding her for polite behavior. I also would not want to reward her for that pushy behavior with a treat reward, because then you're just reinforcing her jumping on people. To the casual observer, it would look like this dog trusts me completely at this moment. She now starts looking for food when I reach out my hand to touch her. This can result in the dog nudging her hand and asking for food. And here she jumps on me again, and I just stand up and we're going to move to a different location. Here Junebug is expecting food. She backs up more when I break our agreement we had previously, and she's leery of my hand without the food because now I've changed the game on her. So I think actually using food initially can cause more confusion and frustration in the dog than if you don't use food. There's a lot of things going on in the shelter. She's a little distracted. But unfortunately, we don't have a quiet place to work at this shelter. She's actually getting a little stressed from not getting the food and the activity. Here, it's very cute. She notices herself in the camera.
You see yourself here?
And you notice I'm holding the leash rather short. This is to keep her from wandering around the shelter and also to keep her in my vicinity. You'll notice as time goes by, she starts to enjoy being petted and the leash gets looser and looser because she's not trying to get away as much. She's starting to relax and enjoy being petted. I acknowledge that she's interested in the camera and she engages with me. Then she sniffs the camera and actually knocks it over. She goes back to moving away from my hand a little bit. And each time she tries to get away, I stop petting her, but then I come back and pet her again. And this is to just acknowledge that she said, hey, I'm uncomfortable. And I said, well, that's okay, but we need to work on this. Actually sniffing my face a little bit and investigating. So she's getting curious about me. This curiosity would not have happened if I was using food, because the dog would remain focused on getting the food reward instead of actually learning about me personally. So I'm getting her used to being touched all over, and I gradually start under the chin, around the shoulders. That little noise in the shelter scared her. Even though she got startled by the noise, I just kept doing what I was doing and remained calm and confident, and she recovered very quickly. You can see here she's starting to move less when I try to touch her. Here I just move her around so you guys can have a better view. And so you can see here she's kind of vacillating between enjoying being scratched. You can see her eyes start to close. And remembering she's a feral dog and going, uh-oh, I'm not supposed to like this. You'll see here she's starting to get more and more relaxed with being touched, and I'm not using food to do this. I'm just using touch and scratching and massage to relax the dog. And here I'm trying to get her used to getting her feet touched, and I'm actually saying foot when I touch her foot, and so she'll get used to that word meaning someone's going to touch her foot. So she decides she doesn't like her foot touched on this pass, and so I'll just let her go for a minute and then call her back to me and try again. And this time she's much better with having her feet touched. And again, this is a dog that would snap at people when she first got into the shelter for trying to touch her. It's quite common for feral puppies to act this way. One reason why I keep looking into the camera is that I use the video screen to see what the dog is doing, so I don't have to look directly at the dog. So that's a little tip if you're working with fearful or feral dogs and you want to see what they're doing, is to just use your phone and turn that screen around so you can see it. Here I am giving her ears a nice massage, and you can see here there's a noise and she turns away. And so I stop massaging for a second and then go back to massaging the stop on her head, which is the little spot between her eyes. Dogs usually love that spot massaged. And I'm working on getting her to like being touched over the head more because, let's face it, people do that to dogs. So I'm alternating between touching her on top of the head and massaging that spot between her eyes. Here she's curious about my sunglasses, so I present them to her to sniff. Again, acknowledging what the dog's interested in. And I try just to see if she wants to play with a toy at all. No, good girl. Yeah, good girl. She was liking being petted there for a bit. Now she wants to sniff the toy, which is good, and it's in my hand, and now she's sniffing my face again, just showing curiosity. It would be unusual for a dog that doesn't know me really well and was previously feral to take a toy from me, so I'm not expecting it. I just wanted to see what she would do with it. And again, working on touching over the head. And I stop touching her and she looks back at me. So I think that's kind of a like, hey, scratch me a little more. That felt kind of good. And you can see here she's getting better with touch over her head. You can see here her eyes are starting to relax and close. It's a lot of noise in the shelter, so it's also distracting, and unfortunately, we don't have anywhere else to work.
She's so funny. She watches herself in the phone, in the video. She's like, who's that? He's a good girl.
This is my comparison. In my opinion, the dog did better actually without the food and could focus on engaging with me more instead of just looking at the food, and also was not as pushy, more polite, was fine doing the behaviors after the food went away. So the dog accepting touch was not dependent on the food. This is really important because a lot of people don't want to carry around food for the rest of the dog's life to get the dog to accept being touched. People want to be able to touch their dog. And if I base that interaction by using food, I'm creating a bit of a barrier there when there isn't food around. I also have videos on when I do use food for dogs. I have videos on my YouTube channel that'll be linked at the end about how I do use food with dogs that don't like to be touched that much. Often they're just scared of it. And you guys can check that out. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.